will take a lot longer for him to. You have the cooldown up for that. Does it remove his viability as a global? No, but it significantly weakens his impact. So definitely a hero that, even though available now, I think we'll see less play than he would have given the nerfs to Auriel because of his additional nerf onto the Hunt.
It's actually a big problem for many Assassin players in Korea. They said Illidan, with the Hunt changes, they were doing lots of macros, especially with Illidan coming out with the Hunt. No metamorphosis, barely ever.
Well, nerfs or no to both of these heroes. Here we go. Hashtag Raven. Will they prove the viability still? I guess we'll find out.
Well, a lot of them said they needed a double support along with Auriel, so I think this is a okay approach. Even if Vala is removed or taken away from the other side, there's also Lunara. Tracer is also a possibility.
Li Ming. Okay, Mighty is just playing the standard play here. I'm going to pull in the Muradin. I thought we might see Greymane Uther as well, because Greymane's one hero that's going to work with this. I think Raven is kind of forced down the Vala path, and Mighty could still ban Vala here, which would be terrifying if that actually happens. Big question is, what are we going to see? Will it be a Lunara draft on this map against Genji? Feels risky. Kind of back themselves into a corner with this double support that was so popular before, but is now, it feels like pretty weak overall.
Okay. They're going towards a support ban as they both took both supports already, and I don't think it matters too much if they have to ban DPS, so they went and banned Rehgar, just leaving Genji out there to not get Ancestral healed. If Raven has a hyper carry, Vala, or not what that DPS is going to be later, Genji will be very weak without the Ancestral healing, so I think they made the right choice there.
The Vala ban is like super obvious. They haven't locked it in yet, but I wrote it down on my paper. That's how confident I am they're going to lock it in, because it's the most reliable battery that Raven could have, and it's just so good on this map because of the Q build you pull out. So I think the Vala is going to be locked in. They were just thinking about their next follow-up plays. I think Uther is a must pick. Now, there is a small chance we see Raven do something absolutely crazy, like triple support, pick up the Uther and grab Lunara, but I hope not. I hope not. But we have seen them do things like that before.
Yep.
The Uther Lily game comes to mind. That was actually Blossom, I believe.
And Chom would love to play Uther, so we had a triple support game last weekend, so we never know. Let's see. They have Dester Auriel, of course, but Shield may save the hyper carry, but may not be enough. Who knows? If they are literally thinking, let's leave everything to one DPS and bring in solo tank, someone like Arthas, I think it's a very self-sustainable tank too.
Time's ticking down. Arthas is a good pick. Greymane is a good pick for DPS. Tyrael leads towards the Greymane. Will it be the answer here? Nope, Lunara. So triple support in a different way with the Tyrael. And Lunara is not a surprise pick given the Auriel Tassadar. This gives Mighty the opportunity to draft into a heavy dive hero, though, like a Zeratul. Remember, it's good on the other side, so definitely could do a good Zeratul play to help ruin some of the Sanctification combos, also to just kill Lunara in the backline or force an early Aegis out of Auriel. There's a lot of things that Zeratul can do against the composition that Raven has with a Genji too. The double dive makes it so difficult to respond.
I think the hardest choice here is picking a support. 2 is already removed. I guess 3 with Rehgar. Not much choice. Uther can bring some healing, but it won't be as powerful. So Malfurion, I think, is a better choice in terms of the other side, because they will be diving in. If you land on that Twilight Dream on the perfect timing, they will be silenced, and no Sanctification will leave Lunara very weak. So I think that's a solid choice. Of course, healing won't be as much, but I think that's a good counter against what Raven has right now.
I think you're absolutely on the money. Remember, too, that Uther provides armor, which isn't going to be very useful against most of the spell damage coming out from Tyrael, Auriel, and Tassadar. Sure, they're not the damage dealers here. It's Lunara. Lunara's damage is burn over time. Burst isn't very strong against that. However, slow healing that's very, very large and very sustained, like Malfurion's healing does very well against single target damage over time. Sure, if it spreads to multiple targets, if Lunara uses the Vines actually instead of Leap, for example, it can be a big problem for Uther to manage all the healing. But in general, I think this is great because of the Twilight Dream you mentioned, disrupting the combos, disrupting the defensive abilities, can ruin the day of Raven. So will they take a secondary DPS here or something like an Arthas? I'm leaning towards the Arthas, but they do have to deal with the Chen somehow. What's it going to be?
Maybe
Tychus, maybe?
We'll bring some more CCs coming in.
Thrall. Thrall was also buffed in this patch.
That's right.
Very slightly. His Q does like 2 more damage per Q, and he gets a little bit more
less mana.
Yeah.
But I'd love seeing Thrall back in the meta. Maybe we'll see Earthquakes coming out, maybe Sundering, who knows. They needed lots of CCs with more damage coming in. I think Thrall can do the job in the front line. I think that's an okay choice diving in.
It's going to be a strong solo laner with this comp as well, which makes the 4-man with Ariel, Tastar, Lunara very, very strong in the bot lane. So he will duel, of course, against Chen in the top lane. It's a good matchup for Thrall. It always is a good matchup for Thrall when he's in the solo lane. And we'll see how this battle occurs here as we head into Battlefield of Eternity, game number 1. In blue, Joker will actually be on the support here. Malfurion, BDG on Chen, Good on Muradin, Nasang on Li Ming, and Magi on Genji.
And in red, Raven, Darvish on Tyrael, Hamlin on Thrall, and MX on Lunara, Diong on Tastar, and Chom on Ariel.
Well, none of these 10 players are really sticking with their positions.
This is Chom's first Ariel this season.
Not a whole lot of opportunities to play it.
Caught.
Diong is dead. Nasang is just trying to kite back here. He might fall, just barely gets that Malfurion heal. That's going to be the double there on to Darvish. Good, should be able to Dwarf Toss. Nope, but he survives anyways.
Barely from the trade, and also healing coming out from Joker later on.
He just knew he had Dwarf Toss off cooler, but he knew he'd survive. No,
Maybe.
I'm making this up. This is not,
I think this is, from what we just saw, this is a great team comp from Mighty because Malfurion, of course, we talked about lack of healing a little bit, but because Chen and also Muradin does have self-sustain by themselves, Malfurion can just constant heal Li Ming or Genji, whichever target they need to. It's a lot easier compared to 4 if you have to only heal 2. So I think that's an okay choice. We were talking about lack of healing, but I don't think it's going to be as much with this double tank lineup in the front.
Magi is diving the back line here, just showing us more of what we're going to be seeing later on in the game with the Chen and Genji. Hamlin's actually struggling in this top lane. BDG has tons of sustainability, but Hamlin can poke him. The problem is that the wave clear is not as good for Thrall, but this presents gank opportunities oftentimes if you are the Thrall player who's struggling in lane here. It's been a long time since we've seen Thrall versus Chen, and to be frank, I thought Thrall would be doing a better job, but seeing it in practice, I was wrong. So we'll see if they look for any ganks up there on the top lane. Tough with the comp they have. Uh-oh, Chom is in trouble. Now out of range and no hope.
Good dives in alone, and he's surviving for a long, long time. That's the power of Muradin. You can tank so well from the beginning, and you don't really need that much healing. You can just heal Li Ming or Genji there. I think their focusing is to have their DPS survive and try to get those resets.
Yeah. You know, it's funny that Good plays the Muradin, but both tanks on the side of Mighty are very dive heavy. They can be used as strong dive heroes, so the coordination will have to be really good. But if it is, this can be just, there's so many tools on the side of Mighty to kill the back line. NMX will have to have good positioning. And the argument of whether he takes Leap or not is really going to be a tough one, because Leap will give him the extra escape, but it's so strong to use Vines against a Malfurion when you have so much healing on your side. And here's that backline dive we're talking about. This time it's not going to be enough until Muradin comes in, perhaps. Then it might be. NMX positioning really good, actually. Surviving for so long, but they can't get the kills.
Nasang got the reset. I think that's a big one. So Raven has to go back. Ariel Hope is not coming along until for next 7 seconds and more until he comes into the middle of the map.
Do they have enough damage? It feels like they don't. Raven is lacking a little bit of damage. The fight is going long, but the Malfurion healing is good enough to kind of out-heal the Lunara damage. And because of the heavy dive potential, Lunara has to stay really far back so she's not always doing damage. And if she's not doing damage, then that means Ariel's not getting Hope, which means she can't heal. It's kind of this problem that begets a problem against this composition.
I think Raven is focusing too much on the NMX. I think the focusing should be on Thrall. How much Thrall can do in the front line. How much he can push against Mighty. If he's allowed to push, not here, not like this, but during the team fight, if he can push the line towards the back and when Mighty has to force back, when their back line is also with the front line, then it's Nara's turn to do all the damage. I think that's the way they should approach the positionings, but it's really hard to do when Murdin and Chen is diving in all the time. Liming can teleport, Genji can just...
Oh, look at this coordination. Speaking of diving in, I mean, the mobility of the composition we see from Mighty is way better than Raven's. They have Liming for poke against the Immortals, and when the dive hits hard, Liming is so strong because of the reset potential. It's 4 kills to 0 now, and despite the fact that it looks like Hamlin might have actually finally regained some ground here in the top lane, it's not going to matter when the ganks come through. Look at this. He's baiting this really hard because here comes Genji. Thrall is in deep trouble now. BDG goes over the wall. Don't know about that one. I think he will actually pay for that with his life. Oops. But either way, the idea there was good to try to force Hamlin to Hearth home.
Got a little too excited there, and Genji's damage was, of course, a little bit lacking.
Okay. Well, you give a Thrall a minute in the top lane, and you go for that gank. It was an old timing that we saw so much back in 2016 in the Thrall versus Sonya matchup, where Thrall starts to win the lane. Murdin comes up for the gank. We saw it so many times in 2016 when Thrall was super meta. And in this case, didn't work out as PDG's being a little bit,
greedy
too
panda.
far.
I think he forgot about small nerfs coming in.
Small nerfs, indeed.
Small nerfs, yes.
I don't know if he would have lived with the old Chen health pool, but he would have been a little bit closer, I suppose you could say, G-Clap.
Oh, that was a moment. Well, starting the own game, I think it's a better timing for Mighty because they also have pretty good wave clear. If Raven cannot force and do a lot more damage to Mighty's size of Siege, just due to the timing of the next Immortal, they're going to have a lot more pressure on the bottom lane. Genji's already working on it. Their Raven's fort is already down. It will be going directly to the keep wall.
Yeah, this timing didn't work out for Raven because, as you say, there was time to clear for Mighty before the Immortals. They're one level ahead. Raven has an opportunity to take a fight before 10, though. Good has taken a lot of damage, but does survive. We'll be able to heal up very quickly with Muradin's trait. Okay, here comes the dive onto NMX. He is the target yet again. It eats the stun. Good is going in deep. We'll have to retreat. Great orb there. Look at the root. They're looking for this pick. Dion would start the reset trend, but he doesn't go down and actually has survival.
And Hamlin picks up a kill onto Genji there. That was a great root coming in, knowing the perfect timing. That's first kill, but when Liming's away and Tyrael may be hearthing home.
Okay, Mighty is playing with their food a little bit here, I think. Trying to have these flashy, incredible plays, but need to respect their opponents. Okay, here, look at this.
Burst damage. That's going to be double kill going out, and there's a teleport coming in. Ooh, looking for more.
Resets galore. Nasang with the final shots. NMX dodges it. This time, BDG will get that flying kick kill he was looking for. Good stun there from Good to, no pun intended, to lock Tassadar down, and that will give them level 10. And an additional Stormbolt stack. He's at 15, or sorry, 14 currently. Will soon be at 15. Meanwhile, Tassadar is still at 4, ... I don't know why it showed up like that. I don't know.
Well, rip stacks for Thrall. That root, it's pretty tough. If you miss, you lose all. So I think Raven's gonna have a tough chance really completing that one. Last week there was the untouchable stack that almost was impossible to get all the full stacks, but Sign did it. Maybe Hamlin will do it once more tonight.
Yeah. Closer and closer, I suppose. Will be the Immortal going over to the side of Mighty before Raven could hit 10. Now they have a massive shield advantage. Chen is going to stay in the bottom lane to get extra experience. Well, the Immortal will teleport top now. This is going to be a pretty tough place for Raven to defend. I like this choice of getting Thornwood Vines instead. I think it's the better choice against Malfurion.
Yes.
Because when you're up against Dive, your leap isn't really going to save you anyways. So I like this. It gives them more poke, can actually make them able to fight a little bit more defensively. And it will be actually really strong in situations like this as well, where they're trying to use Siege to defend.
Tyrael's actually holding in Mei. I think he has to lock in Sanctification and dive in if he has a chance to it. Chen pops out first, and then there's the Aegis coming in.
Okay, BDG is taking a ton of damage. We'll need to look to retreat. Actually,
Chen
way overextends. And now Judgment's used. The Avatar will pop to counter it. It was a bit of a sloppy engage on both sides there. The Chen, just again, up in the front lines, not respecting the damage output of Lunara. When the damage over time is coming through like that, all three of the Panda Pals, as they're called by many members of the community, were just getting burned down. He stayed instead of leaving, carelessly dies. And then the Judgment usage there was less than stellar. Did trade out a longer cooldown on the Avatar. I suppose you could argue that, but I think you could very much as easily argue that Avatar wasn't necessary. Okay, we're going to see this attempt with Sundering. Again, poor coordination.
I think Hamlin had an angle when the Immortal was pushing in. I think the lack of communication when they were kiting back and they had a chance to turn things around, especially when Chen died. That commitment was not fully in, and Judgment, I think that will cost them big actually in the long run.
Well, here's a good Disintegrate, but Good is taking a lot of damage up in the front lines. Not actually able to accomplish much with this. I think everybody just needs, I want to just pause the game and tell everyone to take 5. I'm like, everybody, can we take 5? Okay, we need to come back and revisit this.
Well, actually completed the quest.
Yeah.
At 4, didn't notice that.
But everyone just needs to step up the coordination in this game real quick. So there's definitely been some panic engages, shall we say. 10 seconds until Sundering is available, so Judgment will have to be held for now if they want to pair those together. NMX gets over the gate here.
That's the thing, Darvish, he wants to stay, but there is no Sanctification, so he cannot stay on that ground for a long time. Liming almost dies, but gets the kill. Another reset on there.
Twilight Dream is really good, but unfortunately, Magi and Nasang just can't get close enough to get further kills, and this is actually a one fight for Raven. Mighty will have to back away. They end up losing the camp, and this top camp is going to go directly to the keep. The bot camp is being dealt with by Diong currently in the bot lane. This gives a slight positional advantage to Mighty, though, for this Immortal phase. As, yet again, Sundering and Judgment were not used together in coordination. The best part of that fight for Raven was actually the Aegis after the Judgment, which caught Mighty in a position where the older members were going to take AoE damage from its expiration. That actually won them the fight, basically.
Because I think Joker got a little too excited about his positioning, and he went all the way deep when Nasang and both Genji were in the back line. But let's take a look into this team fight once more. Darvish is diving in hard. Maybe he forgot that he didn't take Sank.
Yeah, it starts to feel that way. Very low here, although it does help allow the damage to be done. NMX is really starting to get power here now as Lunara, with the protection coming in post 10. Knowing that Ario can save him oftentimes has been a boon for him. Joker goes very, very deep in here. We'll actually have to use Ice Block. Does get taken out. It's going to be a 1-for-1.
Nice Ice Block. And they have got so much time for all those resets to come in, and Nasang is taking one by one. And NMX is also very low. Will soon get taken out with another teleport coming in. Seems like that's not even needed. Diong's the only one left.
Magi going to try to get as much damage done as he can before he dies here.
Where's Malfurion? No, there's Mona.
Malfurion was dead long ago. Well, this is going to be a lot of damage done to this keep. I don't know if they'll necessarily get it. I don't think so, because they're committing instead to the Immortal. Boy, has this been a slugfest.
Raven was pushing that in pretty well. They almost got a kill, but that Ice Block bought for 2-point-something seconds. That bought a lot of time and room for Mighty to come back around. Lots of damage was lost, and Thrall's Root actually being used onto Malfurion Ice Blocking. I think that changed a lot of things for Mighty. They had better positioning right after. They were too focused on taking out Malfurion, and they did at the end, but it took a long time.
Well, let's see how the Raven is going to have this engagement go. Ice Block's still on cooldown currently. Malfurion has respawned. Gonna look for a Twilight Dream engage. Already a very early Aegis. Doesn't really hit anybody. Judgment canceled here by the Ice Block. Feels like the old Jaina days. Sundering hits no one. And DeYoung has to dimensional shift. Looks like it's going to be a fairly even trade. Advantage to Raven, though, in terms of healing to stay higher sustained because they have Ariel and they have that AoE. Malfurion can only heal one target at a time. So a Lunara pick, when you take the Vines, is so strong against Malfurion because you just hit so many targets, everyone's taking damage.
But they can come back. The only one that's off on cooldown is Dragon Blade for Mighty side. When compared to Raven, they have a lot of cooldowns coming out. So Magi's diving in, knowing the power of all the heroics available for Mighty right now.
And MX still very safe back here, though. Good overextending, trying to get into that backline. The positioning for Raven ends up winning out here for them. 6 seconds until another Aegis is available. When that's up, NMX could do so much more.
The Immortal is already gone to Mighty side, and they're onto the chase now. Pop State Avatar for stunned, and Lara is gone. No damage coming out from Raven whatsoever, and Chom is caught again, barely just buying time right now.
Yeah. Just not enough damage to kill any targets. The tanks that were rotating in were constantly being switched. So whenever Good took a ton of damage on Muradin, he just walked away because he has passively the ability to heal up a lot. Malfurion does great against high health targets when he has slow healing over time. And they just kind of eventually wore through Raven. Raven couldn't have, they didn't have any pressure. They have slow damage without any pressure to remove Mighty away from the Immortal. And this could be the end of the game if Darvish goes down here. Down he goes. This is a dead keep.
That
was a close
could
call.
Be more. Magi barely. Ooh, gets taken out with the Sundering. Takes 2 down, actually.
And Muggy misclicking. You could tell he was trying to move command, clicking on the ground to move away, but he accidentally clicked on the wall. That's why he autoed it. Doesn't matter, though, because we're seeing more picks after his death regardless. BDG with a very nice jump in.
Twilight Dream. No healing coming out for Ariel, and DeYoung's onto the other side, so no more shields.
Beast stepping here for Nasong. No way he can save his friend. Joker will go down, but Thrall will go down with them. And with it, the core. DeYoung does one last dimensional shift as the core begins to fall. A 15-minute game here for game number 1. Judgment comes out here. They want to defend this, but it's just simply unreasonable with Chen and an Immortal wailing on this. They get the kill at the end of the day on the core. And Mighty will take a sloppy game number 1.
As you said, it was not crisp. It was not the perfect one. Raven actually countered that all right, but having that Judgment as a split-second pick cost it really big for Darvish, especially his play. He wanted to go in, like stay on the camp control, but he doesn't have Sanctification. I think that costed the entire team pretty big. If they had some Sanctification because they already had to sustain, Mighty does not have sustained as much. With Sanctification, I think there were a lot of times they could turn things around, but of course Judgment was the choice. You cannot change it in-game, and they lost game 1.
Yeah, the dive was really good, really well executed by Mighty as well. They had Muradin jumping in, Chen jumping in, the Genji jumping in, forcing those early Aegises, forcing the DPS to move away, which meant they got control of the Immortal. They had the poke, so Li Ming was the one doing the majority of the Immortal damage there, just at range, and they won the game through winning objectives more than anything else. The draft on the side of Raven, they brought the Tastar, they brought the Ariel in. I feel like in that one game, though, in that one single game we've seen post-patch, it didn't feel like Ariel was that much weaker. Like, it actually felt like Ariel was pretty reasonable. The heals are coming out. In these 2 drafts specifically, it looked like, okay, you know what? This still works. This is fine. It wasn't like they lost the game because they picked Ariel and she's nerfed and the 2-second cooldown is longer. It's what are you going to do? It wasn't quite like that, especially against a Malfurion heal because they had AoE healing. It was very evident in those fights. So I don't think you can point fingers at the Ariel or the draft. It was just the execution.
Yeah, it was. Chom was actually putting the right target at right time. It seemed like early